Welcome back to Navigating the Streams. I'm Mike DeLong, and I'm here to tell you what I thought of all the movies I watched in March. I watched 19 movies last month, including all 10 Best Picture nominees, a few classics, and some movies from the past few years. As always, I'm giving you my reviews from least favorite to most favorite. Let me know what you think. First, I've got this year's Mercy, and I gave it 2 3/4 stars. Mercy was fine. It was exactly what I expected. I enjoyed watching it once for free. Chris Pratt plays Chris Raven, a cop who spoke out for the need of mercy, an AI court system giving the accused 90 minutes to prove their innocence. If they fail, they're executed. However, he begins the movie waking up in court in front of Mercy, accused of murdering his wife. One interesting thing is that the movie clock matches the amount of time Chris has to prove his innocence, but that's about it. The performances are pretty good. Rebecca Ferguson plays the AI, so she doesn't have an emotional range, which limits her performance, but she's fine. The overall story is decent, but doesn't get much higher than that. Some of the special effects are strange, but others work well. Basically, if you're looking to fill an hour and a half with something, you could do worse, but you could definitely do a lot better. Next up is Roofman, and I gave it 3 stars. Roofman is a fine movie. There's nothing great about it, but there's nothing horrible about it either. Channing Tatum plays Jeffrey, a veteran who can't make ends meet, so he starts robbing McDonald's by tearing a hole in the roof. This ends his marriage and sends him to jail. He escapes and hides out in a Toys R Us until he can get a fake ID, but ends up falling for one of the employees. This movie suffered from bad advertising. The previews made it seem like a comedy, and it has its funny moments, but it isn't the laugh-out-loud riot some people may have thought. The acting and the story are good enough. It's a standard dramatic rom-com. This one just happens to be based on a true story. 2 hours seems a bit long for this movie, but you don't feel it while you're watching. Roofman is a decent movie. If you like the actors involved, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't enjoy it. I've got Sisu Road to Revenge up next, and I gave it 3 1/4 stars. I finally saw the Sisu sequel, one of my most anticipated movies of last year, and I was a little disappointed. Atami is back. World War II is over, and the new borders are in place. However, Atami's old house is now in the USSR, and he crosses the border to deconstruct it and bring it home to Finland. The Soviets find this out and release the man who killed Atami's family and created the myth he has become in order to kill him. They hunt him down with motorcycles, trucks, planes, and more while he hauls a truck full of wood that used to be his house. This movie takes the original and ramps it up a ridiculous number of notches, and not always in a good way. A guy in a truck against planes? Either they're horrible aviators or he's an amazing driver. And that's not the most absurd thing that happens. The acting is improved with the addition of Stephen Lang as the antagonist. If the original had hints of John Wick, this one has hints of Fury Road, but not as good. If you loved the first one as I did, you'll probably enjoy this movie in one way or another. Next is All We Imagine Is Light, and I also gave it 3 1/4 stars. All We Imagine Is Light is a movie that, on paper, I can see myself really enjoying, but this presentation just didn't do it for me. This movie is about 3 women working as nurses in India. Prabha, our main character, is like a head nurse. When she talks, the others listen, and the younger nurses look up to her. She has a husband from an arranged marriage, but he lives in Germany and they haven't spoken in years. Anu is a younger nurse and also Prabha's roommate. She's secretly dating a young man from a different religion, and they're looking for a place to be intimate. Meanwhile, her family back home is looking to marry her off. And Parvati, the oldest, is being kicked out of her home because her husband didn't show her where the residence papers were before he died. So this movie is slow and quiet, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but for a nearly 2-hour movie that just barely resolves these stories, it wasn't enough. Prabha's story is the least resolved and probably the one we want the most resolution to. She receives a rice cooker in the mail with no return address or anything to say who it's from. She believes it's from her husband, but it's never confirmed, and it's supposed to be a big plot point in the movie. It only appears in 2 scenes, and nobody makes any rice in it. Ultimately, I just didn't care enough. Something at the end offers some resolution, but it's confusing and didn't work for me. The settings are good and give you a lived-in feel, like cramped apartments of the nurses, spacious homes of a lawyer, or the small coastal village they end up in. In the end, this is a movie I appreciate more than I like. It may work better for some people, but not so much for me. The Age of Innocence is up next, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The Age of Innocence is a Scorsese movie that I've never seen before. It looks great, but it's not your typical Scorsese movie. Daniel Day-Lewis plays Archer, a wealthy man in the late 1800s who's engaged to Winona Ryder's May. However, his world is turned upside down when May's cousin, the Countess Olenska, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, comes back into town. Archer and the Countess fall in love, but the social norms forced on them by time and their class prevents them from being together. The main feature of the movie is the costume and production design, which both received nominations, winning in costumes. It's beautiful. The parties are huge affairs with intricate dresses and elaborate dinners. There are long, lingering shots of food, place settings, and rooms full of art. It's a feast for the eyes. The acting, though, isn't great. Day-Lewis is stilted, which fits the character, but isn't necessarily pleasant to watch, especially when you know he can be so dynamic. Winona Ryder received a Best Supporting Actress nomination, but I don't think she was that great. Pfeiffer is better, but her character is more free than the rest of the cast. There are some characters that are just set dressing, but feel like they should be more than that. The movie is based on a book, so they probably had more of a role to play and need to be there, but don't feel that way in the moment. If you're watching this movie because you're a Scorsese completist, you might be more than a little disappointed. If you love overly elaborate period dramas, this is the movie for you. Next up is Ready or Not, Here I Come, and I also gave it 3.5 stars. I'm a huge fan of Ready or Not, and I was more than a little worried about how they would add to the original, but I believe they did it justice. We pick up at the end of the first movie. Grace is taken to the hospital and questioned about the events of the previous night. Her estranged sister Faith is called as her emergency contact and comes to see what's going on. Meanwhile, a cabal of people from around the world are organizing to spend another 16 hours trying to kill her. This time her sister is also a victim, and the leadership of the worldwide syndicate is at stake. Samara Weaving is as good as she was in the first movie, and the additional main cast is as well. The blood effects and kills are still outrageous. The story adds to the lore in the best ways and expands the universe. There are fewer characters with any actual development, but that doesn't ruin the movie. They balance that with more development for Grace, which is a good trade-off. If you like a good splattery horror that's more funny than scary, there's no reason to avoid this movie. This may surprise a lot of people, but I gave One Battle After Another 3.5 stars. I was not as impressed with One Battle After Another as most people were. It's definitely Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie since There Will Be Blood, but it falls short of that by quite a bit. And it wasn't even the best movie of the year. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Bob, a former revolutionary and current burnout raising his teenage daughter as a single dad. When they are put back on the radar of the colonel who smashed the rebellion, they go on the run. But they're not together. Bob must find his daughter to keep her safe. Everyone loved the acting in this movie, but I thought it was one note across the board. Sean Penn did some great movement and facial work, but I'm not sure it was Oscar-worthy. The settings are great and have a real lived-in feel. Parts of the movie are shot wonderfully, especially the car chase scene, but it's at best 4th on my list for cinematography of the year. The story was interesting, but the driving force of the plot was predictable. I like the idea of a revolutionary group being hunted down by an obsessive military, but even his motivation was farcical. It just didn't work for me like it did for so many others. Even as I write this, I feel like 3.5 stars is too high a rating, but I also can't see myself going any lower. One Battle After Another is a step in the right direction for PTA, but he's done better, and there were better movies that came out last year. Next up is Marty Supreme, and I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I thought Marty Supreme had a great performance, but wasn't necessarily a great movie. Timothée Chalamet plays Marty Mauser, an ambitious ping pong player who believes he's the best player in the world and whose life's goal is to prove that. He neglects family, work, and other responsibilities in pursuit of this goal. He needs money to fly to Japan, but doesn't want to actually work for it, so he runs scams. I feel like this movie has been told before, but with more important aspirations. I mean, it's not like Marty is going to save the world by playing ping pong. The stakes don't necessarily need to be that high, but it's just table tennis. Chalamet is great, as I said, and would have been a worthy Best Actor winner, even though the character isn't necessarily likable. The supporting performances are good too, though I wouldn't miss Kevin O'Leary if he wasn't in any more movies. Just a personal preference. The sets are good and transport you back to the 1950s, especially the street scenes. The tension is high throughout, much like other Safdie movies, but it's not a tension I want to experience over again. This is a movie that I think deserves at least one watch for the performances and the craft. The story is a little underwhelming, but that doesn't necessarily kill the movie. The Addams Family from 1991 comes next, and I gave it 4 stars. I played Uncle Fester in the Addams Family musical this month, so I showed my kids the movie I grew up with. It had been so long since I've seen the movie that I forgot most of the plot, but it was still as good as when I first saw it. Fester has been missing for decades, and it's tearing Gomez up. Meanwhile, the Addams lawyer is trying to find a way to scam them for their gold and finds the perfect Fester doppelganger. The fake Fester needs to fit in while finding the way to the vault. The cast here is amazing. Everyone is great. They take aspects of the characters from the 60s TV show and still make them new. The story works great as a way for fans to find the characters while introducing them to a new audience. The story beats work, but the ending puts a bit of a strange bow on the story. I love the situations we find the family in, and the house is amazing. If you remember this movie fondly, it holds up. Check it out again. If you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for? Next up is F1, and I gave it 4 stars. I saw F1 back in July. I think this movie is fun, but not necessarily Best Picture material, though I am rating it over the eventual winner. I enjoyed a lot about this movie, but the unnecessary and forced romantic situation really brings my opinion of this movie down. It just takes away from the story. I suggest seeing it on the biggest screen you can. Please like this video and subscribe for future reviews and to find out what's coming to a streaming service near you. Train Dreams comes next, and I gave it 4 stars. I also watched and reviewed Train Dreams last year. Seeing it in the theaters was great, with the amazing cinematography and beautiful vistas. I still hate some of the narration, but the story is good and you feel for the main character. It may be slow to some viewers, but I feel it's worth the watch. I've got Sentimental Value next, and I gave it 4 stars. Sentimental Value is an acting powerhouse of a movie. The story has some problems, but it doesn't ruin the experience. Nora and Agnes are sisters who are somewhat estranged from their father, Gustav. When their mother dies, he tries to come back into their lives. Gustav is a film director, and Nora is a stage actress. He has written a movie for her, but she won't entertain it because he abandoned their family. He tries with a different, world-famous actress, Rachel, played by Elle Fanning. Gustav also wants Agnes' son in the movie, but she doesn't want that. So the 4 major actors of the movie all got Oscar nominations, plus many more. They're all great. I love how Elle played a bad actress, and Renata Ransva portrayed her brokenness. The home the girls grew up in is also very much a character in the movie, and the way it's shot is great. There's a lot to like. When I left the theater, someone said the movie was about giving a narcissist what he wanted. But it's more than that. The family is in trauma, much of which is caused by the father, but he's extending an olive branch in the best way he knows how. He feels that this movie can be healing for them all, and in a way, we are led to believe that it will be. I do like this movie to a point. The person in the theater isn't wrong, but he isn't completely right either. I think that this is a movie you should give a chance to and watch all the way through. There's a lot packed in here, and most of it is good. I've got The Secret Agent up next, and I gave it 4.25 stars. The Secret Agent is definitely worth the Oscar nominations it earned. It's not a perfect movie, but few are. Marcello, played by Wagner Moura, is on the run, hoping to get out of the country with his son before being found by assassins. He uses the help of the underground resistance, living with them and also working to find out details about his mother. This is another important movie for Brazil, grappling with the tyranny of their past government. I do believe the title is a bit of a misnomer, though. Marcello isn't a spy for the government or for the underground. He's just a man trying to escape. I think the title sets up expectations that the movie doesn't meet, which can disappoint some viewers. The movie is best when it's dealing with the events of the late 1970s. There are brief scenes where we see college students listening to tapes of the past, and the final scene where we see Marcello's son all grown up. These would work better for me if we didn't leave the 70s as abruptly as we do, but since that's the case, they drag things down for me a bit. Mora's good, and the cast of mostly non-actors do great work. I'm so glad it got a Best Casting nomination. The settings and costumes are great too. I would definitely recommend The Secret Agent to most people. It would have been a worthy Best Foreign Language Film winner had Sentimental Value not taken that prize. It Was Just an Accident, another of the Best Foreign Language Film nominees, is up next, and I also gave it 4.25 stars. I've heard of Iranian director Jafar Panahi before, but this is the first of his movies that I've seen. He's been in trouble with the Iranian government, and I don't think this movie's going to help him out there at all. One night, while driving with his family, a man hits a dog and something goes wrong with his car. He takes it to a nearby shop, but while he's there, one of the mechanics thinks he's the man who tortured him when he was falsely arrested, identifying him by the sound of his walk with a prosthetic leg. The mechanic kidnaps the man and intends to kill him. Not being 100% sure, the mechanic enlists the help of other prisoners, disrupting their lives to help him identify the man. This movie is a ride. The story is intense, the characters are well written in their doubts, and the ending is great. Sometimes things get comical, but it works. It definitely makes me more interested in Panahi's other movies and other Iranian filmmakers like Abbas Kiarostami. The acting is good, and the characters all have unique points of view based on their torturous experience. One man wants nothing to do with the situation, another is out for blood, while a woman who has worked to overcome her trauma is dropped right back in it. The story is well written with the oscillating feelings of the characters. I was convinced that the kidnapped man was the torturer in question, and also that he wasn't a few times while watching. This is a well-crafted movie in all aspects. I definitely recommend watching it. The original Sisu is next, and I gave it 4.25 stars. I watched Sisu because I wanted to see the sequel, but it wasn't out on streaming yet. This is the second time that I've seen it, and I loved it as much as I did the first time. Sisu is not the name of the main character, but a Finnish term meaning extreme courage in the face of adversity. It's the end of World War II, and the Nazis are on the run. Atami, the main character, has found a huge vein of gold, and he's trying to cash it in. He barely speaks throughout the entire movie, but he definitely kicks ass. The Nazis try to take his gold, but he's like a Finnish John Wick, an unstoppable force. So this movie is a lot of fun. The Nazis try to stop him, and he always comes back. There are so many interesting kills, the landscape is great, and they make use of different settings. The acting is good enough, but that's not the reason to watch this movie. Things are not completely believable, but the action is good, and it's not too outrageous. If you're looking for 90 minutes of action and ass-kicking, this is the movie for you. Next up is Bugonia, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Bugonia was a standout when I saw it on the first day of the Best Picture Marathon. I love most of what Yorgos Lanthimos does, and he did not falter here. Jesse Plemons plays Teddy, a man who has beef with the company he works for, while also believing that the CEO, played by Emma Stone, is an alien. He sets out to prove this by kidnapping her and negotiating on behalf of the human race for our release from their control. I loved watching this movie. It's fun, a little frightening, absurd, and hilarious. The performances of the three leads, including Aidan Delbus, an autistic actor making his debut here, are all great. The setting of Teddy's home is perfect for the movie. You really go on the ride of thinking Teddy's insane to wondering if he could be onto something and back again. I found the last act to be the perfect cherry on this wacky cake. I had a lot of fun with Bugonia. I know Lanthimos isn't for everyone, but if you're willing to take a ride, it's definitely worth it. Frankenstein is next, and I gave it 4.75 stars. I reviewed Frankenstein back in November. Everything held up for me. It deserved the awards it got in costumes, production design, and makeup. It's a beautiful film. I still believe that there could have been more done to make the creature look inhuman, or just take those lines out of the script, because the two don't line up for me. But it doesn't ruin the movie. This is not a horror movie. This is a story about a creator who abandons its creation. So don't avoid it because you don't like horror movies. I've got Sinners up next, and I'm giving it 4.75 stars. I saw Sinners back in April. I loved it then, and I love it now. I'm boosting my rating a little bit because the long take music scene worked better this time than it did originally. Michael B. Jordan deserves the Oscar, and the other actors deserve their nominations. Everything else, including casting, costumes, settings, score, cinematography, all are top-notch, as reflected by their nominations and some wins. If you haven't seen this movie, you really should check it out. It's not that scary, and only slightly gruesome towards the end. Finally, we've got Hamnet, and I gave it 5 stars. Hamnet might not be my favorite movie of the year, but I can't deny that it's the best. Jessie Buckley plays Agnes, the wife of Paul Mescal's William Shakespeare. They meet, marry, and have 3 children. When one of them dies from illness, Agnes is rightfully wallowing in her grief, but Will is away in London working on a play. In fact, he was not home when their child died, and she blames him. It just so happens that the play he's working on is Hamlet, which is interchangeable with Hamnet. Jessie Buckley is amazing, and she deserves all the awards. She's relatable and moving. You're with her 100%. The rest of the cast is great too, especially Jacoby Jupe. He broke me. The production design, costumes, and cinematography were great. I noticed some makeup continuity issues during the Hamlet performance, but even that didn't bother me. In fact, it actually felt right to me. This is truly the best movie of 2025. Everyone should see it. If you don't, you'll miss something spectacular. That'll do it for this review video. How did you rank all the Best Picture nominees? Let me know in the comments. If reviews aren't your thing, check out what's coming to streaming services in May, coming up soon. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.